Hey Lou, how are you?
Hey, Tren, I'm good. And it starts.
And it's done.
And it
It's
starts.
already.
All right, how are you, mate? You good
I'm
today?
good. I'm good today.
Yeah,
I'm good
excellent.
today.
Yeah, as opposed to days where we're not good, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And we have those days.
Oh, God, don't we? So much going on, I know what to say.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's do a reading.
Okay.
Oh, not a reading, card draw.
Let's pull the card, see what we need to know for this episode.
Excellent. Which deck are we using today?
We're going to use the Rider-Waite. We're using the Rider-Waite.
Interesting.
Yeah, go back to what everybody knows.
Yeah.
And I had a lady come to the shop the other day, wanted to buy a tarot deck, and I went, always start with the Rider-Waite. Then you can move on to the others, because these seem to be easy to learn, to get comfortable with.
I think like there's so much symbology in them, and I'm not discounting the others that have come along that are pretty plain and simple by comparison. Not that you can compare. Well, you can compare, but you can't. Yeah, I do think it's a good learning deck. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I know that the lady bought another deck, and I just know it wasn't the right one for her.
Yeah,
no,
and you worry, don't you? Because
you do.
You think that's going to put them off.
They're starting their tarot journey, and I know in my gut that you've got the wrong deck.
Yeah, yeah. You got to watch that sometimes, don't you? And yet others like to. What is that animal one? I don't know what it's called, but it looks like it's so elaborate and it's swirly, and it's not a tattoo deck at all, and yet it could look like, it's so swirly. The whole card is covered in swirls and flowers, and I'll have to find it and show you what I'm talking about.
We probably should do that one day, get all our card decks out and show you.
Actually, yeah, we should probably have a, what's your favourite deck and why?
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to the card.
Let's do what we're doing.
We're going to pick a card for the episode.
We are going to pick a card for the episode.
Sidetracks as we do. It's the Queen of Wands.
Interesting.
So Queen of Wands. So we just did all the court cards last week. So this is
interesting. And it's very interesting because what we're doing this week came from a beautiful listener called Emily.
Oh.
So it's kind of like a listener question type thing, and we're just going to elaborate on it. So I find it interesting that the Queen has come out. The Queen. Yeah. But how does that relate to the episode today, apart from the fact that it's potentially representing her?
Yeah, exactly. It's very much because we talked about the court cards last week, and the Queen especially, she's got that wisdom, but that quiet wisdom, isn't it? It's that she's not in your face.
I like that quiet wisdom. Yeah, definitely.
But with the Queen of Wands, it's very much, she might take a step back, but she knows exactly where she's going and how she's getting there.
Yeah, because she's the action taker, right? And how is she doing that? How is she doing that? Yeah. And I'm drawn to the cat on that card. Yeah. And to me, that's about like trusting your own ability, right? And trusting what you're getting. And that's typically going to be wound up in today, I think, in some way.
And the cat, to me, often represents your intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. Your psychic ability, right?
Yeah, because if we think about cats, I mean, we often think, we probably don't, but it's like witches always had their cats around, don't they?
So they say, right? It's one of those myths, right? That she had a black cat, right?
Cat. But I just thought, I always look at that and go, and because it's not quite front and center, but it's in there, it's obvious. It's like, okay, if your intuition steps forward, take note. When it steps forward, take note. Do not dismiss it.
Don't dismiss it. Yeah. Don't dismiss it.
Yeah, so.
All right, very good. Okay, so what is this about this week? Right.
Yes.
So had a conversation with Emily, who was one of my students in the past, and I think this question was absolutely fantastic. So we're going to talk about today a general reading versus a specific reading and why that might be different.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And how does that impact the outcome?
Yeah. Right? Very different outcome, wouldn't
it? Would have a different outcome, right? But are you aware that it's going to have a different outcome because it's based on the intention, right? So you need to be mindful when you're doing your readings for people, how specifically you're doing this. So for me, the client will come in, they'll shuffle, they'll do things, they'll draw a card, and then I'll start setting up the layout that I happen to use. The only layout
that you actually
formal
use
layout is in the beginning, and I do that to make sure that I'm connected enough, and I don't allow the client to ask any questions at that point, except to say that they relate or they don't. That's it. And then once that's done and the connection feels like strong enough, then I'll move into what I call the free form, right, which is where I'm picking up all these other things. Another story, another time. Anyway, so the reading itself will start as a general reading, right? Start as a general reading. So the outcome then will be a general outcome, or an overall outcome.
More overall, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like they can take it or leave it, but it's overall. It's just we haven't asked a specific question. It's just, this is how you've walked in with your energy.
That's right.
How I feel.
That's right. And sometimes when, often actually, for me anyway, often when I read in that way, then the reading kind of takes its own journey and it leads the rest of the way. And then at the end, the client may ask a series of questions, which of course I'm focusing on the questions, therefore only giving the end outcomes to those specific questions. But here's the tricky thing. So if you're doing that general reading and it starts to lead in a certain direction, and then it seems to be only that focus, right? So it's there at that point in time that it's becoming a specific thing. Very specific. So your questions need to be really specific around it, because in the first general part of that reading, right, you've given like a general outcome as to what this may be. And that outcome that you've suggested, as per what the cards are indicating, might take you down a different path.
Exactly.
Right? But when you get really specific about something, this is where that will impact the outcome.
Because you've taken everything else out. It's just this question, you only want to know this question. There's no other, bits and pieces come in. It's just we are focused on this question.
Yeah, and it can be a little tunnel vision.
It is really tunnel vision. Yeah, it has to be, because the client has asked a specific question.
That's right.
We can't go off on tangents. We have to focus on this question because that's what they have asked.
That's right. So be mindful when you're doing your readings. Am I getting off course here based on what the client has asked me, particularly when it's around their questions? Have I got off course with what they're asking me? Am I bringing in the general energy and mixing that up in this? So it's really understanding, really understanding that, and knowing that your free will can come into this, right? Because let's say, right, in this example, beautiful clients had a reading, we've allowed the reading to take its general course, it's headed down a particular path, and that particular path became very specific, right? And then the client got into that situation out in the real world and then realized that they didn't want that outcome that we said. Right. So can they change that outcome? Absolutely.
Of course they do. Of course they can.
You can, because you have free will, right?
Yes.
So therefore, when you apply that, you can change the whole reading.
Exactly.
The whole reading, not just a bit of it.
No, it's a whole thing, because you make a choice. If you make a choice based on the reading, you're going to go this way. But if you make a choice based on how you feel or the situation, the whole thing changes.
Absolutely.
The whole thing changes.
Absolutely. And we're talking about the incidences that arise in this, because there are some parts of a reading which are like, they seem completely random and, come out of nowhere. And it's like, you just think, oh no, that's not going to happen. And then you walk away and it happens, right? That's usually how it works for me anyway. I'm like, I'll say something, someone will go, I see that. And then they'll ring you, go, oh my fucking God, that just happened, right? So it can definitely be that way, but we're talking about specific things. And when you can change the free will or have free will and therefore change the outcome. So you always have free will, and you can use your free will. Now, readings can be delivered not only in a general way or a specific way, but also they can be fortuitous, right? Which is where we're being predictive. or they can simply be for guidance and
guidance,
direction,
yeah.
right? And those are going to be very different.
Exactly, guidance and direction. If you're handing it back to the client, aren't you?
Absolutely.
You're
And
handing
that's
it
really
back.
where the power needs to be,
Yeah.
right? Is with the client,
Yeah.
not with the reader, right? So be mindful of what you're playing with, for want of a better phrase, when you're setting up your readings.
Yeah.
Is it general? Are you being specific? Is it predictive? Or is it a guiding thing?
Exactly.
And all of that can be quite healing.
Yes.
Right? There's so much more to a reading than just reading a card.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, and I always do tell my clients, this is not a fortune telling.
No.
It's a guidance, give you a little bit of direction and clarity. And I always end with, you have free will.
Yeah, so you're pretty specific about the rules around how you're delivering your readings, right? Which I strongly suggest, because it takes away the muddied waters, you could say.
Yeah, because they know they're not coming in, and I'm not going to tell them they're going to win lotto.
Oh, fucking hell. How many times do people go, tell me the lotto numbers? I'm like, fuck off.
I don't do that.
But yeah, it doesn't work.
If I did, I would have done it for myself.
Absolutely. And it doesn't work like that, right? We'd love it.
Oh, we'd love it. But no, but I just, as soon as the client sits down, I say my spiel about it's a guidance reading only.
Yeah.
So,
I like that. It's a guidance reading only.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like that.
And that, if something does come in and I'm saying, oh, you win lotto, well, great. But there's no, I'm not saying you definitely will. I know you will.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. So it's just interesting. And sometimes you just know shit, don't you?
You just know shit.
And like, how do you explain this to someone, And I don't know about you, but I get like phrases in my head. And then I'm like, oh, I'm hearing this, some phrase. So it's more than a reading, and we are doing more than just reading. I was listening to someone's social media, and they were saying that, there was a time when all they did, and as in, how did they word it? It was like they were minimizing the being of readings or whatever. It was like, oh, it's just to be hippie and sit on the beach and read cards.
I'm just a tarot.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, you were probably fucking changing lives just in a different way. You just didn't realize. So, don't minimize other people on what they do. I just thought, or what you've once done in the past, don't minimize that, because it certainly led you to where you are.
Exactly.
And it's a beautiful part as to where you are now, right? So be
you.
Absolutely be you, 100% be you, that's for sure. But when you're delivering your readings, be a little bit more, I want to say guiding. I'm trying to find the right words. Tren, help me out. What am I trying to say here, love? It's where you're being specific yourself about how this reading is going to go.
Yeah. And like you were saying, you get phrases. I get pictures.
Oh, do you?
And it's becoming more. I'll get pictures of people I know.
Oh, so how do you relate that?
So it's like, okay, I had some reading a while back, and I actually had a lot of pentacles come out, the king and the queen come out, and I'm going, okay, this is all financial. And I saw these two people in my mind that I know that work in the finance sector.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, hang on, what are they doing?
So how did you relate that to the reading?
Okay, well, that just confirmed
the specifics of that reading, right?
It confirmed that I was on the right track, because those two people that I saw in my mind are bankers, and I'm looking at the King of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles, and I'm like, okay, this is all about finance. It's all about you doing your financial, or whatever they were doing. I think they were studying. Well, it turned out later that they were going to uni to be financial people.
Whatever. You can't make that shit up, right?
But
you
that's
seriously
what I'm
can't make it up.
That I see pictures of people I know that I can relate to whatever situation they're in, to whatever the client's in. Or movie scenes. And it's like, okay, remember Forrest Gump when he was sitting on the bench?
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's something like that, you'll have a meeting with somebody quite randomly. I don't know if it's a thing, but that's what I see sometimes. And whatever the card is saying, and it doesn't always happen, but something will pop in my mind and I'll go, oh, that makes sense. That ties in with the card and the client.
And that's really interesting. I'm going to go to the Forrest Gump example, right? So what I'm hearing you say about that is that you might have had that image where,
Yeah.
you know, and you're talking about Forrest Gump and you go, oh, I can see here that, you know, you're going to be sitting somewhere
Yeah,
and
somewhere.
you're going to meet someone, they're going to come and have this random conversation with you. Now that's giving you specific information in a general reading, right?
General.
However, what if that client then wants to hone in on the Forrest Gump part?
Yeah.
Then that reading's going to take a turn,
different turn,
and it's going to go this way, right?
Yeah.
And that is where they then might decide, when the Forrest Gump person shows up or whatever, or whoever they're meeting, they might go, yeah, no, I don't want that to be that way.
Exactly. They can
change that, right? Yeah. So interesting, even though it's a general reading that you've set up, would it be fair to say that sometimes you get predictive things happen in it? Yeah, me too. Where mine is, I think for me, my readings are a lot more predictive, and then there's guidance through that.
Through it, yes.
Guidance through that when they're predictive. And that's where I find, if my clients focus on what's been suggested, that it's kind of like, no, don't focus on that. You got to allow that energy and that space to take place.
Yes, allow it to flow.
Allow it to flow, and understand you 100,000% have free will. This is just one possibility of a gazillion that is out there, and at the moment your energy is indicating that that's the direction you're currently headed in. That's how I look at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You know, because quite often if somebody questions my spiel about the guidance, and I'll go and they talk about, I had people ask about free will, and I go, I can give you this reading, it'll be a guidance reading, and say blah blah blah, but you can walk out this door and go left when I said go right.
Yeah, and it changes it all, right?
So it's your choice, it's your free will.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that you have to come in and follow everything that a reader says. You don't. You absolutely don't. You have total control over all of it. And most importantly, no matter what's going on in your life, you need to follow your own intuitive hits.
Exactly.
Right? Your own intuitive hits. How am I feeling about this situation? Does my body feel expanded at all? Do I feel contracted? Am I getting the goosebumps? Am I feeling comfortable? What is this? And it's not a head thing. So it's not a logical thing. You've got to get out of your body, out of your head rather, to drop into your body and feel it. And typically that's done through our heart space, right? But sometimes, I don't know about you, but do you find that some people are just too emotional to do that? And you got to take them right back to basics, like back. It's okay, let's just stop here, you know, and sometimes your readings, I feel, whether they're specific or general, can get mixed up with like a counselling or coaching session. Do you find that?
Yes, quite often I'll stop the reading and just go, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Or we need to, in a way, get you out of your head so that you're not expecting this certain outcome.
Oh, that's the other thing, right? They can expect a certain outcome. And their energy then can drive into that. So it's really important that as readers, we stand back and go, okay, is this a guidance reading? Is this a fortuitous or predictive reading? Is it a general reading? Am I going to be focusing on specific questions? Because sometimes clients go, I just want to know this. So you go, okay, I'll bring this in. And sometimes other information will come up, and I don't know, spirit wants you to know, or what the fuck ever, but always free will, right? And the impacts on the outcome will change.
Exactly.
They will absolutely change. But get really clear about what it is you as a reader are bringing and what you're doing, and then what does the client want you to do with that? Are they wanting specifics, or are they just want something general? Are they not worried about it? But be mindful of when the general starts to turn specific, right? Because that's going to change stuff. That's what I would say. Has this made sense at all?
It has, because I was thinking, it was also, we're talking about reading, and sometimes we get to a stage where we can see something's going to happen that is not going to be beneficial for the client, and you've really got to find your words to say, maybe not this way.
You do. You really do. And it's like, you got to be, I believe, authentic in yourself and integral and ethical.
Exactly.
You know, like to me, there's that is really, really important.
Yeah.
And I know I look for that in a reader. I look
Yeah.
for a reader who's giving me what they're getting.
Yeah,
They're not telling me what I want to hear.
exactly.
They're actually giving me what they're getting. And then there's a little bit of guidance in there that says, you know what, I
Yeah.
don't know that that's the right way. Or
Exactly.
I can see, feel, sense or whatever that you want this to be this way. However, this is more
probably your goal,
inclined
yeah.
what's going on. So
Yeah, you sort of find your own language without being, I mean, sometimes you might have to be blunt because some people just don't want to hear,
yeah.
but you'll
Yeah.
find your own language and
Yeah.
you'll say it in a softly straightforward way.
Yeah, and then sometimes you won't.
No.
You'll just be like, look, this is take it or leave it. This is what I'm getting.
Yeah.
You know, like I love what we do. I do love what we do. So many different things can happen in a day.
Exactly.
It's insane.
Well,
And
everything, so many different things can happen in one reading, in that
Oh,
45-minute
yeah.
reading or hour reading. You've gone through so many twists and turns, even though the client has said specifically, I want to know this, even though you are focusing, sometimes you do go off. Or,
sometimes you
you
do,
know,
yeah.
or they go, okay, great, next question. And you've got to try and flip your mind a little bit.
Yeah. So I think it's being mindful, like when you start to, you're doing a general reading, but you start to get some specifics
Yeah.
happening. If you, as the person receiving the reading, was to say, change what was
Yeah.
predicted in that particular thing, will that change the overall outcome of that general reading that you had in the first place? The answer is yes and no. Right? The
Yep,
answer is yes
exactly.
and no.
Yeah.
So that part will be changed, and typically that's going to change a lot of other things. But
then
also
other parts will stay the
there's
same.
other parts that are going to stay the same, and it's that random shit
Yes,
that
yeah.
happens. You go, how the fuck did I know that?
Exactly.
So when you're receiving a reading, I think what we're trying to say here is be open to all possibilities, not just what the reader
yeah,
is telling you. Be open, because it's just one possible outcome of
exactly.
so many if you follow this trajectory.
Exactly.
So if you change something, and that's done by free will, because all the things that have been said have happened right up until that point, and then you're like, I don't actually want this after all,
Yeah.
then you are going to change the outcome. And that's perfectly fine. That's how it needs to be, because the people that come for readings, they are the master of their own life, right? And it needs to stay that way. When the reader is someone that the people receiving the readings depend on and rely upon, we got a problem.
That's wrong.
We got a problem, right? So the people coming for the readings, you are in charge of your own life, and delivering the readings, you're just holding the space for the information you're receiving. Being mindful of, is it general, is it specific, are we swifting directions, am I just giving guidance here, what does this person need in this moment, what's most beneficial? Lots of things to consider.
We're not
as a
just,
reader, so much shit to consider.
It's hard work sometimes.
It can be hard work, and yet it can happen so freely and easily too, right?
Exactly.
It's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
But yeah, there are days, fucking hell.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
is this day over yet?
yeah. So we hope that you have enjoyed that. Just a different take on readings. So I guess it's just how it is.
It is.
Well, for me, it is anyway.
Yeah, and so it's just not just going in and getting the answer you want. It's not how it happens.
No, sometimes you can be really lucky and get that, you know, you walked in and had a reading and someone's just told you everything you wanted to know in the first fucking 5 minutes. And you're like, okay, that's it.
I'm done.
I'm done. That's happened for me sometimes. A little bit crazy. But anyway, another story, another day.
Exactly.
We hope you have enjoyed today.
Yes, something a bit different.
Something a bit different.
Important as well. Important
I think so.
to realise that it's not just straightforward.
Yeah, some days just aren't straightforward.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, share, subscribe. Love that you support us.
Yes, thank you.
Please, if you don't share and you don't help us get out there, we're just going to stay in this tiny little pond, and we actually don't want that.
We want to be in the big. We want big fish in the big pond.
Get out there a bit more. So thank you so much. Thanks for listening and watching.
Yes.
And we will catch you
next time.
Big love.
See you later.
Bye.